So the Warriors get 66 points from Jimmy Butler and Jonathan Kaminga. Problem is they only scored 97. They only scored 97. Game 3, Saturday night in San Francisco, the Wolves go up 2-1. Let's talk about Kaminga, right? That's kind of the headline of him showing up and getting this opportunity. A big portion of the fan base very upset that it's taken this long. See, right? And this narrative that he and Jimmy, right? The plus minus, the spacing, and it just didn't fit when he came back post ankle injury, the final month of the season. Honestly, I think it's more of a Steph issue. And please be clear what I'm saying. I'm not putting this on Steph. We all know that the Warriors universe is Steph Curry. Everything revolves around him as rightfully it should. But you look at the history of Jimmy playing with role players, enhancing role players, and I'm not even calling Kaminga a role player, but playing with other guys, making other players on his team better, right? And you've seen now the last 2 games, there seems to be no problem with Jimmy and Kaminga out there, granted the context of this situation. I think it's really just a mindset change when Steph is playing for Kaminga. And it puts hesitation into his game, where Kaminga is a home run hitter. You don't ask him to step to the plate and just put the ball in play. You got to let him swing for the fences. And when Steph's playing, you see he doesn't swing for the fences, and you understand the context behind it. He comes into this organization as a rookie, wins a championship, and it's been constantly preached to him, pass up a good shot for a great shot, find Steph, play within the system, and that's what everybody has to do. You get that, but it's just not who he is as a player. And so again, I'm not obviously like you understand why they got to try to make it work with Steph, but I think that's what it is. It's not so much Jimmy. It's when Steph's on the floor now, Kaminga's like, should I pass that and set a screen? Should I relocate? And what you've seen in these last 2 games is a decisive downhill dynamic attacker in Kaminga. Now, the encouraging thing about these last 2 games from Kaminga is they feel repeatable. It's not like he's hitting threes all of a sudden. He's hit a couple of them, but it's not like he's been over-reliant on making tough 2s and 3s. He's getting to the basket and he's finishing. And honestly, he could probably go to the line more than he has. So even if he doesn't get some of those rolls that he got last night, he did get, right? There was some spectacular finishes. You feel like if he continues to get this opportunity, there's going to be a game here where he shoots 10, 12 free throws, even if he's not getting the rolls. Let's talk about the whistle in the free throws in this game, where the return of Scott Foster. Don't they call him the extender, right? He extends playoff series. It felt like he was trying to shorten it last night. And I think that part of the whistle issue right now is the Warriors are not fully adjusted to how much tighter it's being refereed as opposed to that first round series in Houston where, right, it was just a dogfight and they were letting them do everything. And so some of the moving screens, the grabbing and the holding that they were doing for 7 games against Houston, they're no longer being allowed to get away with. Draymond. It was a double whammy from Draymond last night, right? Because he got a horrible whistle. Some horrible calls. I think the block charge one was the worst, but some of them were just touch fouls. And again, Scott Foster there. But to compound the issue, he wasn't good anyway. He wasn't focused from the start of the game. And one of the telling signs, too, is 1 3-point shot attempt. And the Warriors didn't make a 3 in that first half. I think more of that had to do with the Jimmy Jonathan attack downhill. It wasn't like glaring. They passed up a couple, but it wasn't glaringly passing up 3s. It was just the way the offense was going. But only 1 3, and he had 5 turnovers. And, he gets impatient with the ball. It's funny because people that are always late to things, right? It's a habitual thing. It's almost like a learned trait within your family, right? But we all have people in our lives that are always late. What comes along with that? They always speed. They always drive fast, right? Because it becomes a necessity. They're always speeding to get where they're going because they're late, right? Draymond, some of the passes, the over-aggressive passing is a necessity because he doesn't want to shoot and score, right? So he gets impatient when he's looking for that over-the-top post pass or a hit ahead. And some of it's timing-based. A lot of it is. And so he's got to be on time. But it just kind of goes hand in hand with his mindset when he's not looking to shoot. When Draymond isn't aggressive looking to shoot, you can count on the being high turnover numbers. But, I just, the other thing with the focus is I bring up the post-game rant from game 2. And initially, I still have the same feeling about it. The angry black man comments, it's just a bad look right now. Now's not the time for that and trying to play the victim. But then when I heard about the racial slurs in the Minnesota crowd, then it kind of added up to me. I think that was more of that's what fueled that rant. But what I'm getting at is the 24 hours between game 2 and game 3, I'm assuming Draymond, through talking heads like myself and in mainstream media, right? He kind of got a lot of backlash for those comments. All right, bro, stop. Now's not the time for that. And you're not that guy. You've kind of chosen the role that the villain role that you've embraced. So we don't want to hear it. And I just wonder if those comments kind of backfiring on him over the last 24 hours is where his energy was, where his mental energy was, where his focus was heading into game 3, because he creates these narratives that sap energy from you. You only have so much energy, both physically, spiritually, emotionally, right? And obviously it didn't sap physical energy from him, but perhaps mental energy was sapped from Draymond with the backlash of those comments because he just wasn't dialed in. And then to compound it, there's a horrible whistle. It felt like we didn't get any benefit of the doubt calls, any of the 50-50 calls last night where you say, all right, we're in San Francisco, and you'd imagine if you want to play conspiracy theory game, like the NBA, you want to extend this. Don't you want Steph to get back in the series? Isn't that ratings? Isn't that good for you? It didn't play out that way with Scott Foster in the whistles last night. Before we get on to the rest of the game, Underdog, you can use the link in the description and use the code Alchemy to get a 50% bonus on your first deposit up to 1,000 credits. They're running all sorts of boosts and bonuses all through the playoffs that can just, multipliers for your profits when you win. And keep an eye out for my picks. I'll put out some picks for the game 4. And I'll tell you one of them, it's going to be Draymond. It's going to be a Draymond number, because all that said about Draymond, one of the silver linings, I think, of what happened last night is when Draymond owes the team a game, right? It was not a good look. And when he owes you one, he shows up. That's the history of Draymond. I expect game 4 Monday in San Francisco for Draymond, 3, 4, 5 threes, and just be much more dialed in and focused, because that's who he's shown us to be throughout his career. But Underdog, click the link, support the channel, and it's the best way to play picks in this playoff basketball environment with the boosts, the bonuses, and the wins. Well, I can't promise the wins. But let's move on here. Jimmy, what did he have? 33 points? I mean, we got playoff Jimmy. You got everything you could ask from him. Now, one thing that probably sticks out to people is that he smokes 2 or 3 layups a game where you're like, what, right? And that's just who he is. That's going to be the give and take with Jimmy. He sometimes outcrafts himself at the rim, right? He's so tricky and crafty and deceptive with how he wants to do things. Sometimes he deceives himself. And you see that a couple times a game. You saw it last night. There was one play late where he called GP2 over to set a screen for him. And the only reason he did it was to get Randall or Naz Reid to look at the screen, and then he rejected it. But then he forgot that he had called GP2 out of the corner, and he goes to the corner, and it's a turnover. It was a late turnover. And as we got into that fourth quarter, we were up 5, and I thought it really fell apart on the sequence where Draymond gambled on a post catch to Randall at the nail, and he spins off him and dunks, and then he comes down, turns it over, ant layup, timeout, and that's really where the momentum swung, and it was tough to recover. And I think what that represented was, because sometimes Draymond gambles and plays hero ball as a defender, but that more to me represented that Randall was kind of eating his lunch, and at this point in the playoffs, already battling through that huge front line of Houston, Draymond is scratching and clawing to to match the size and physicality, and he's not getting away with any of that stuff that he typically does. So he's out of there, right? But we can't execute down the stretch, and the Wolves super timely 3-point shooting. They hit 5 of their 13 threes in that fourth quarter. And the spookiest thing that happened last night, I think, is that Anthony Edwards, kind of finally started to look like Ant. Talked a lot about the ankles. But there was a play early in the third quarter where he turned the corner and he looked and threw it out of bounds and turned it over. And I think that was the moment where it kind of flipped the switch for him, where he was like, nah, this ain't me. Like I gotta remain aggressive. And he got a rhythm from 3. He got downhill. But defensively, first off, GP2, at this point, do you play him? We don't have a ton of options. When you look at how Pods is playing, how Moody's been playing, I guess you don't have a ton of options. But I think one of the issues he's having with Ant, besides the fact that he can't figure out that you don't let him get right. I know that's easier said than done, but he's just like inviting blow-bys right. But one of GP2's traits that make him such a good defender is he's so strong. Even though, he's got this wiry, small frame, he's so strong with his hands. And he's able to kind of hold guys and break rhythm by just mugging them when they're off the ball and being handsy with them. And he can't do that with Ant. How many times have you seen him trying to face guard Ant and he just throws him off him for a cut? So there's that. And Ant, getting healthier seemingly, or I won't say that, but more confident. That's a huge problem moving forward. But overall, defensively, look, we forced 21 turnovers. I think they have to change how they're guarding the ball screens. And particularly with Mike Conley, we're giving him way too much respect. And there was just way too many traditional pick and rolls with Conley and Randall, where it was just like Looney shows or Trace shows a little bit, and then they try to recover, and it's giving the Wolves have nothing to think about. It's like literally day one practice pick and roll coverage, and they're just eating it up. And so what I would say is, let's see Mike Conley make the floater, the runner. Let's make Mike Conley try to get in the paint and finish. We're just giving him way too much respect coming off those ball screens. So either trap him, hard trap him, or switch him. I don't like it. And then the other issue with it is, if you're noticing, we have to tag down off the high wing, essentially because we're so small. The back line, a lot of the times it's Pods, it's Buddy, it's GP2. We don't have that traditional rim protector. So the tagging off the ball screen is coming off one pass away at the wing, whether it's Nas or Randall or whomever it is over there. And again, it's just so easy for the Wolves to attack. So I'd like to see them change the ball screen coverage and just be a little more dynamic in what they're going to do. The zone. Didn't show much zone in this game 3, and I was kind of curious to why. And that's the other thing that I'll bring up. Quentin Post, you could see it. He's played 3 minutes game 2. He played 3 minutes game 3, and he gets put in a pick and roll with Ant. He gets destroyed, and then Kerr pulls him. Okay, fine. I get it, right? But how about you hide him in a zone? Because we continue to have these droughts offensively where he's one of the few guys that is going to pull the trigger. And if he gets enough open looks, he's going to knock them down, and he's going to change the geometry, the spacing on the floor for us offensively with Kaminga and Jimmy. And so I think you got to do a better job of trying to hide him defensively in a zone so he can get some minutes and give us some little spurts of offense. My other complaint was I thought they could have went to Trace. You get why they were going to close with Looney once Draymond fouled out, but Trace only 11 minutes. He had 7 points in 11 minutes. And again, and not in the same way Post is, but a guy offensively where when he's standing in that dunker spot or he's rolling, it holds Rudy a little bit. The very first play of the game where Jimmy got to, the second possession, Jimmy turns the corner and gets to a little push shot over Rudy. But Rudy didn't fully contest because he was Trace was in the dunker spot, and he was, for a second, he's like, is he going to throw the lob? And it held Rudy, and it allowed Jimmy an easy floater at the front of the rim. And so for Trace to only play 11 minutes, I'm sure if you ask the coaching staff, it's defensive reasons for QP and for Trace. But Looney is not holding up any better, really. You know what I mean? So I don't know. And you've heard Kerr say, we're going to win this series with defense, which I don't disagree. But I think there's a gray area. And I think there are periods in the game where you maybe sell out the defense to stop the offensive droughts that we've seen throughout the series. And then the other issue, Julius Randle, man, the well-publicized Karl Towns Randle trade, the reality is styles make fights. And in this fight for us, Warriors-Wolves, Randle's more of a problem than Towns. We've seen Towns for many years and Draymond's ability to kind of punk him, get over physical with him, frustrate him. And Randle's having, the best playoff series of his career. Did he have a triple-double last night? He's had a triple-double. And, he's doing what he wants. And the looks we're giving him are too easy as far as the way he's attacking from the second side, where it's either like a dare you three, a long closeout, or just a traditional pick and roll coverage. And so I don't know how you slow him down, but I think they have to show him a different look. I think we have to play more zone. But, hey, I said it in today's patron breakdown. It ain't over till the fat lady sings. And you understand the concept has been this whole time, or since Steph went out, get one of these next few games and get it 2-2 by game 5. And they still have that a very good opportunity Monday, still in San Francisco. The crowd's got to show up. And I expect Draymond to look a lot better. I hope we see some different defensive looks when it comes to the ball screen, and perhaps some more trace and post, get more creative hiding them defensively. And again, we're on the ropes, but it ain't over. If they can get Monday's game and even this thing up, as far as the Steph news goes, apparently he worked out pregame, no sprinting, not really testing it, but breaking a sweat, right? And so at least he's headed in the right direction in healing. What I hadn't known was there's 3 days between game 5 and 6. And so even if it is 3-2, we get Monday, we go back to Minnesota and lose, that buys a lot of time. Well, I won't say a lot, relatively a lot of time for Steph to be ready for a game 6 in San Francisco. But you got to get it there, right? As always, hit that like, share, and subscribe. I'm out, y'all.